Hello everyone, and welcome to Spoiler Warning featuring myself, Tom Colohue, Mr. Crazy Hair, Mr. Weird Hoodie that actually matches the Spoiler Warning colours really well. Our top news story today will be as regards the incoming Survivor Series pay-per-view, particularly this year's Wargames focus and Triple H cutting matches from the card and just basically restarting the whole plan for this show. I've got some information as to what the plan was under Vince McMahon and some information as to what the plan was early on during Triple H's tenure. Triple H, as we now know, has been making a lot of changes to the idea of what was originally planned for Survivor Series, and there's a lot to cover there. Essentially, as a new person is brought in, it's less and less surprising to see him changing and adapting. We'll also briefly touch on the situation with Jonah. I've reported on it previously, but now someone else has reported on it, so suddenly a lot of people are asking me questions about it. So I'll be sure to mention that one as well. But as always, this is an Ask Me Anything stream, so jump in with your questions and we will try and answer as many of them as we possibly can. Welcome everyone. Spiderboss says hi on the Twitch side, saying hello Tom. Okay, well, unfortunately that's the danger with trying to put someone over. How dare they? Bossman says, mate, happy Friday, and happy Friday to you. And Michael is here subscribing for a 21st month. A 21st month. I've only been subscribable for 21 months as well. That is a committed man right there, Michael. A very committed man. Welcome to the show, sir. So to start by catching up, the first question is about Sasha Banks. I have received 14 DMs over the last day asking, where's Sasha, where's Sasha, where's Sasha? Will Sasha be in Wargames? As you guys know, I will report any news that I get about Sasha Banks. There is a little bit to touch on here, so I'll answer that one nice and quickly. Okay, so in the original plans for Wargames, note that I'm saying Wargames, not Survivor Series, there were spaces being held for Sasha Banks and Naomi. However, that would require new contracts to have already been signed, and at this point in time that is simply not the case. There has been no contract signed, to my knowledge, by Sasha Banks at this point in time that would allow her to compete in Wargames. There is still a spot available, however it seems very unlikely that it will be for Sasha Banks. More on that shortly as regards Sasha. Code says maybe Sasha and Naomi aren't involved in the actual match, but return and have an influence on the results. Not sure how they'd get into Wargames. I mean, they could technically get in over the top, but we'll see how that goes. Jonesy, welcome. Jonesy believes it's going to be either Sasha or Candice. I really do think Candice is most likely, though there was someone who suggested Beth Phoenix in the chat, and I really enjoyed that idea. Martin says, hey Tom, today I can't come listen live, so I'm sending you good vibes and a great stream. Thank you, Martin, appreciate that. Jonesy says, who will compose the Wyatt Six? A lot of those names have still not been finalised or decided upon. Bray Wyatt has the people that he wants, but the people behind the masks at Extreme Rules were complete stand-ins. Not a single one of them is likely to be anyone who will actually be behind the Wyatt Six. Martin says, following up on that, any news on Chelsea Green? Nothing major. All of the news that I have on Chelsea Green is the same as the news that you guys have on Chelsea Green. I don't have this story. The only information I know for certain is that everyone seems really excited by the idea for someone who really never did anything in the WWE, largely because of injury, but also she just wasn't used. So, I don't know, people are excited. Good for them. Jonesy says, any idea who's behind scripts in NXT? Nope, not at all. Also says, is Nikki Cross long-term plan to be aligned with Bray? Hard to say. When Extreme Rules came about, I was being told that Nikki Cross was definitely most likely to be involved there. Certainly more involved than Alexa Bliss, but we'll see what the actual plan is as it comes through. I don't believe CM Punk is going back to WWE. I just think he'll step out of wrestling again. And when it comes to Stone Cold, if he does return, I see him facing Austin Theory. Just makes the most sense to me, personally. Austin Theory. Ghost says, hey Tom and chat, hope everyone's doing well and staying warm. Currently snowed in with a nice mug of hot cocoa by my side, and so you should. Spiderboss says, your thoughts on the current women's Wargames teams? They will be hardcore as they need to be. They will flip off stuff as they need to be. Potentially flip off people as need to be. It's a good combination for me. Bailey says, hello Tom. How many other matches at Survivor Series other than Wargames? At the moment there are 2. I suspect a third is coming. More on that shortly. Yes, Wiggly, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Michael says SRS is way behind on the Sasha Naomi front. Still hasn't heard anything about them coming back. To be fair, he also hadn't heard anything about them being under contract. Barry says, excited about Chelsea Green going to WWE as I watch Impact, and to put it bluntly, she was bloody awful. Fair enough, mate. Each to their own on that one. Raymond Sheets says, hello, Tom. How are you? Well, I am well indeed. Thank you. And hopefully you are too. Carlos says, can you see Sasha Banks using the name Mercedes Moné when she comes back to WWE? Will WWE give her permission to wrestle in Japan as part of her new deal? Unlikely. Very unlikely. She'd need to do a lot more for them. But as I've said, the WWE are planning to pitch to Mercedes Varnado not to return and just be Sasha Banks, but also be Mercedes worldwide, as it were. The idea is that she'll be pitching the Mercedes brand, and that will be a platform, the WWE, by which I mean the WWE will be a platform by which she can essentially sell herself. This, after all, is a part of that, but I think it's worth pointing out these are business identities, not necessarily wrestling identities. Traffic says, good afternoon, Tom and chat. Hope all is well, and as always, thanks for the news. Thank you, Traffic. Appreciate that, and welcome to the show. Jonesy says, do you see William Regal joining MJF tomorrow night? No. Steve says, hello, Mr. Colohue. How are you doing? Good. Hope you're doing well, sir. Doing very well, thank you, Steve. Welcome to the show, and hopefully you're doing well as well. Robs is here. Welcome. Timothy says, happy Friday, Tom. Welcome, Timothy. Matthew says, happy Friday, Tom. Hope you're well. Welcome, Matthew. Great to see so many of you becoming so regular. Great to see so many familiar faces. Always very reassuring. Adrian says, good day, sir, and everyone in the chat. Hope you guys are having a good Friday. It's a great one so far. Joey says, hello, Thomas. So you got a new hairstyle there. Aye, but you see. Do I? Yeah, I washed my hair earlier and it's refusing to behave. Like, that's the best you're going to get, to be fair. It stands up. It does its thing. Raymond says, I love how colour coordinated you are of your clothes and your page. Yes, this was a gift. You'll see more shortly. Pierre says, hey, Tom, just arrived. What is on the programme today? The programme today is mostly based on Triple H cutting Survivor Series down, the changes that Triple H has made since Vince McMahon was removed from power, as it were, or should I say, removed himself, and a little bit as well on the changes that he's already made to his own calendar. We've already spoken about Sasha. I'm sure we'll end up speaking about her again shortly. Sean says, will both sides of the men's Wargames match be settled tonight? No, more on that shortly. Carmelina says, hi, how are you? I'm very well, thank you, Carmelina. Hopefully you are as well. Venom says, only update on Tegan. How likely is it Bronson Reed returns? No update whatsoever on Tegan. As I've said, it does come down to the visa issues. Well, everyone's waiting for more information on that one. As regards Bronson Reed, I can't sit here and say it's likely or it's not likely. I know there's been contact. I know there's been an offer. That's now been confirmed by Dave Meltzer. Hey Ed, how you doing? Please do remember to hit like. The little thumbs up can make a massive difference. And subscribe if you haven't already. In the last 6 days, I so far have gained -1 subscriber. Something's going on recently. Rob says, Beth makes the most sense unless they're stalling that for a surprise entrance at the Royal Rumble right after Rhea has done some clearing of the ring, with, of course, the shocked look from Ripley. I don't think Rhea Ripley would sell that shocked look, but I do think you're onto something there, Robs. Beth Phoenix, for me, does make the most sense, absolutely. Joey says, could Sasha make a surprise appearance in some way, even if she's not wrestling at Wargames? Yes. Could. Once again, to my knowledge, Sasha Banks has not signed a new deal with the WWE at this point in time, and that is a prerequisite to getting her involved. Simon says, Survivor Series is a bust for me with no Sasha or Liv, not interested at all. There's like amazing Wargames matches pitched, mate. Venom says, I'm not getting excited about Sasha coming back at Wargames. It's probably going to be a big letdown. It'll be a big letdown if you are waiting for Sasha to return, yes. Underground Temple says, happy birthday, Tom. Not my birthday, mate. Not my birthday. My birthday's in July, but appreciate it anyway. Let's hope you're well. Been hiding when it comes to watching. I know people like Jonesy and Steve, aka SCW, been going through family issues. Hope you're well, though. Very well, thank you, Temple. I hope you are as well. If you need anything, by all means, just let us know. Johnny Crow says, where is Dewdrop been? I feel like she's been forgotten. Creative hiatus. They don't know what to do with her, so they're trying to work that out before having her return. Steve Anglum says, is Triple H running out of ideas already? Raw and SmackDown have felt lackluster these past few weeks. These past few weeks. I don't believe he's running out of ideas. I believe he's running out of surprises. And once you take away the surprises from the shows, they are a bit more cut and dry and standard. Pierre says, hey Tom, how are you tonight? I missed the programme. It's alright, mate, welcome to the show. And no worries about that. I'm very well, thank you, very well. I mean, I'm a red panda. I'm very well. Joey says, has a contract offer been made to Jonah? Yes, it has. To my knowledge, he is still wrapping up some of his work in New Japan. He still wants that match against Okada, but we'll see how that plays out. The offer is on the table. Raymond says, with Kevin Owens now injured, who is a front runner to fill a final spot in Wargames? More on that very, very shortly. Give me 2 minutes. Venom says, I was happy I got a Roman hoodie and Ciampa's side plates for my birthday yesterday. Cool. Jonesy says, what is keeping Charlotte Flair off television? The booking. They've not booked her to return because they don't know what the plan is going to be just yet. They are trying to elevate other people. More on that very shortly. Hector says, happy Friday, Tom. Hope your day's been well. For my money's worth, if they do sign new deals, I'd prefer Sasha to be the last member of Bianca's team and Naomi to help the bloodline in their match as well. Separate them and make them both feel unique. I'd rather have the turn myself. Naomi turning on Sasha, but we'll see how it plays out. I do not need hair gel. I can look ridiculous. I'm okay with it. Spider-Boss says, the current women's Wargames team makes no sense. They're all faces. I'm pretty sure that's the only sense you're ever going to get out of it. Yes, they are part of Judgment Day and OC. However, they can still have friends. Bailey says, any thoughts where the Nikki Cross character is headed? They're selling something in those backstage vignettes. Yes. She's crazy. That's all I got. That's very much all I've got. Spider-Boss says, I think the return of Sasha and Naomi can be that surprise that Triple H needs for Survivor Series. You're going to say that about every single event though, aren't you? Ghost says, Fightful reported WWE is currently looking at Detroit as a frontrunner for SummerSlam 2023. Have you heard anything about this or about any other options? No, personally I haven't. When it comes to locations, I don't tend to hear a lot about that. I can't break news like that in that regard. Detroit makes sense though. There are some pretty good stadiums there. Hello Sean, my Friday night's going great, thank you. Aaron Sibia says, hi Tom, hope you're having a good day. I don't know if you already mentioned this, but what about Kevin Owens? More on that shortly, and greetings to you. Noob says, hello Tom, how are you doing? Doing very well, Noob, thank you. Jermaine says, hi Tom, I hope you are doing well. Doing very well, thank you Jermaine. Dimitar says, hi Tom, have a nice weekend. Thank you kindly, Dimitar. Matthew Johnson says, so with the Mercedes trademark filing, any possibility of full name change? Could she no longer be Sasha Banks? More on that as I've already discussed, but I'll just briefly reiterate. WWE is selling the Mercedes brand. That does mean she'll be able to use her actual name as well, but I still believe she'll come back as Sasha Banks if she comes back at all. Well, Pierre, I do link your name with Sasha. I try to remember the main interests that people have. If, for example, I've got 15 people in here and I know that there's a common thread with Sasha, I'll see if I've got any Sasha news. When people message me asking about Sasha, I reach out and try and get news about Sasha. You know? That's how I've got so much. Timothy says, I know the feeling of my hair not doing what it needs to. Depends what you mean by need. I mean, it can do what it wants. It can do what it wants. Rob says, you're taking the time to acknowledge everyone goes a long way in building this relationship between both you and us. Hats off to you, Tom. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate that. I try my best. I know it can get frustrating at times when the news has to maybe wait 15 minutes, but you can see the channel filling up. You can see the show filling up, and it means I don't have to repeat the same news from the beginning 15 or 16 times. Also, I just like to say hi to people. You all are nice. You all are doing me favours. Joey says, do you know if KO is scheduled for tonight's show? More on that shortly. Ethan says, hi Tom, any new updates on Sasha? Nope. Jermaine says, hi Tom, did I miss any Sasha Banks news? Not really, no. I'll reiterate what I've said already, but I'll reiterate that in about 5 minutes. Marcel says, hello, how are you? I'm doing very well, Marcel. Hello, Ethan. Hello, Jermaine. Welcome, everyone, to the show. Will says, it's funny that Dave reported about WWE wanting Jonah back in WWE, but as we know, you told us that 3 months ago. I did, yes, and there was a number of other names, which we'll hear more about in the days to come. Dimitar says, what's the situation with Naomi then? It depends. I'm not entirely sure what you mean there. Would you be able to enhance the question just a little bit further on that one? Simon says, Sasha's the most talked about pro wrestler of the year. That's not quite true. Not quite true. I'm pretty sure there are still plenty of people who get a lot of attention. Roman Reigns, for example. I think Logan Paul might actually be the most talked about wrestler of the year now. But I know you see a lot of Sasha. Raymond says, everything is on the table. Spoiler warning merch. Make it happen. Underground Temple says, not every show needs returns. It seems like TK and Paul live on returns. Would you agree, Tom? Certainly a huge amount of returns have been put onto WWE programming over the last few weeks, and it's certainly changed the feel of the show. Venom says, I wish Ciampa would get his old music back. How soon do you reckon we get DIY? I don't, at least not for a while. First things first, we've got to find the way. Jonesy says, is Dexter Lumis versus Miz storyline the most stupid one of 2022? There has been some bad stuff at the beginning of the year. There's been some bad stuff. Connor, welcome. Says, hey Tom, hope your day's been good. Any backstage news on the direction of for Liv, seeing as she's not going to Ronda immediately? Yes, shortly. Venom says, Pete Dunne's been in a lot of Wargames matches. So's Io. Underground Temple says, Nikki Cross NXT gimmick returned. Tell me you're lying to me right now. Not been watching any wrestling for months. If that's true, well overdue. Yes, Nikki Cross has gone crazy again. That's kind of it. Noob says, apparently Nikki Cross is counting the lights. That usually means losing matches. Is she possibly joining the Y at 6? Maybe. Rob says, I also think he's now in hold mode of any surprises, which will be Royal Rumble related, as well as hard targeting Rumble, pulling a lot of booking ideas into his first official road to WrestleMania. You say that, I'm not entirely convinced personally. I'm confident we're going to see quite a few surprises still in order to keep up the level of excitement. Jonesy says, do you see The Rock at WrestleMania 2023? The Rock is not booked for a match at WrestleMania at this point in time. I can confirm that for a fact. Right now, at this point in time, The Rock is not booked for WrestleMania. Marcel says, hi Tom, is there any news about a Europe tour in 2023? Yes, there will be one. There'll also be a UK show once a year from here on out. Nelson says, if only Bronson Reed could sign with WWE and wrestle for New Japan. Not an impossibility. Pierre says, you must have a lot of Sasha fans in there since you're the one giving us the news. Yeah, pretty much. When I reliably give news about one person, I tend to get a lot of people in here who ask about that person. Some of the OGs of this channel are Sasha Banks fans. I believe, like, not every one of them is a Sasha Banks fan, but there are still plenty of them. So absolutely, I try to cater to the audience I have, but I only have the news that I have, you know? KJ says, what's up, Tom? What's up, KJ? Dimitar says, I meant if she has signed a new deal. No comment. Ed says, Miz versus Dexter isn't any dumber than anything Danhausen has done this year. To be fair, here's the thing. I like Orange Cassidy. A lot of people think that's a really dumb character. Each their own. Underground Temple says, is it true Shinsuke Nakamura will be wrestling Great Muta? Yes, he will. Joey says, Raw's been a bit lackluster the last couple of weeks. I think injuries ruined the show. There are a lot of injuries at the moment. Johnny Crow says, when is a new title for the women supposed to be introduced? No comment. I don't know. I just know that they're currently putting one together. Razar says, out of all the returns, who do you think has done the best and who's done the worst in your opinion? I actually have a full video on that, a 60-minute roughly breakdown in podcast format right here on YouTube that you can check out. Underground Temple says, John Cena versus Stone Cold is happening at this year's Mania or next, I heard, Tom. How true is this? Well, firstly, Underground Temple, I'm going to need a source from you. I'm going to need to know where you've heard that. And Jonesy says, do you see a new stable to debut at Survivor Series to mark 10 years since the Shield debut? Not necessarily. I don't see those two things being in any way connected. More on the Shield later. Spider-Boss says, is it me or Alexa look distracted on Raw? A lot of people have said that, but I don't see what people are saying. She's never really been a background actor. She's a foreground actor. Hector says, I'm excited to see where this LA Knight Bray feud goes. Tonight, they could go so many ways. I'm so hopeful. Spider-Boss says, all these pictures of Sasha training in Mexico make my day. I hope she returns soon. Sean says, any truth to the reports about Jonah being offered a WWE contract and WWE having interest in bringing back Zack Ryder? Certainly truth in the first, because I'm the first one to report that, and I can certainly guarantee it. Zack Ryder, haven't heard anything. Spider-Boss says, I've seen bad stuff this year, the Women's Rumble and current booking of the shows. Both Royal Rumbles are bad this year, both of them. Sean says, who do you think will be the two women that will compete in the Advantage match for the Women's War Games? I'd like to see Alexa versus Rhea, but I believe it'll be Asuka versus Bayley. I think the most likely scenario is Mia Yim versus Rhea Ripley. And Spider-Boss says, so far the best return has been Bayley. Bayley was out injured, so she's not covered in the returns that I mentioned there. Callie says, evening Tom, late in tonight. No worry, Callie, no worry. Pierre says, dumb question, but if Sasha happens to sign a contract this week, end of June next week, will WWE change plans? More on that just as soon as I've caught up. Jonesy says, who's your pick for Survivor Series Wargames matches to win and what storylines will be moved forward? More on that very shortly. Is there a Black Friday sale for PWTorch? No idea. I don't subscribe to PWTorch. Little Fettuccine says, who will win the men's game? Who will be in the men's Wargames match? More on that shortly. Will says, I respect the fact that if you don't know what's going, you tell us that. Yeah, nobody should ever sit here and say they know everything. If someone tells you they know everything, get rid of them immediately. If people are spending all their time patting on their back, they should be going to hell. I don't know the matches for AEW pay-per-view, Simon. I don't have enough time to watch them. They're on very late at night and I need to sleep at times. Wrestler Fan, welcome, says, do you think Brock Lesnar will compete in the Royal Rumble match? Yes, more on Brock shortly. Underground Temple says, heard JD from NY say on his podcast, took it as a pinch of salt, and you always should. Ethan says, why do I feel like Alexa will turn on Bianca and will join Bray's faction? Because that's what you want to believe. Venom believes the best return was Johnny Gargano. Simon says, will Sasha return at the Rumble? You're asking the same question in a slightly different way. Ethan believes the best return of 2022 is Bray Wyatt, and Callie reminds people to hit like. We have 31 likes and 81 viewers on YouTube. Please remember to hit that thumbs up. If we can get it to 100 viewers again, that would be absolutely swell. So let's talk news. So I've got quite a few bullet points on this one, but to be real quite simple about it, the original plans for Survivor Series featured 2 5-on-5 matches, both of which were Raw versus SmackDown. There were between 7 and 9 matches planned for the event, including champion versus champion matches as had been previously. SmackDown was finally expected to win overall due to a final main event victory for Roman Reigns. This was still planned despite the fact that Roman won both championships. Original plans would have had him drop the WWE Championship already. Particularly, an idea was to split it in the draft, which is now being pushed back. Bobby Lashley versus Gunther was planned to feature at the event, but was axed pretty soon after Triple H came into power. The idea that Vince had was that Lashley was going to be the USA babyface, and Gunther was going to be the boo USA, I'm foreign and that makes me bad heel. Gunther thankfully has not been used in that manner, but it did mean that the planned storyline for Lashley versus Gunther was not able to really take place. The idea initially would have taken Gunther to tribute to the troops and an attack on Bobby Lashley. Vince McMahon had no interest whatsoever in NXT being involved in Survivor Series. Triple H does want NXT involved, but doesn't believe that now is the right time, hence why he chose to bring in Wargames and choose to throw out the Raw vs SmackDown format. He does want to see more NXT involvement, but Survivor Series is not something he believes to be the right time. You may have seen over the last few months, NXT and the main roster have been much more integrated than previous. That is Triple H's doing, and it is something that's going to happen more and more going forwards. Brock Lesnar, when Vince McMahon was still booking, was expected to compete at Survivor Series. Triple H, however, seems a lot less likely to push that button, and after Brock Lesnar did walk out of SmackDown and then eventually return, he has been essentially given a few less dates to cool his heels. A Shield tribute video was going to be put together, but under Vince McMahon, it noticeably avoided discussing much of Dean Ambrose, now of course Jon Moxley, in AEW. A discussion has taken place between Triple H and AEW to see if footage can be served. Of Moxley, to be clear, not Dean Ambrose, but the relationship between AEW and the WWE is currently a little strained. A place was considered for Sasha Banks and Naomi in Wargames, but that would have required new contracts to have already been signed. To my knowledge, Sasha Banks has not yet signed a new contract with the WWE. As regards Kevin Owens, who was planned to be the 5th man on the face side of the men's Wargames, things are currently touch and go. Kevin Owens still wants to be involved in the match despite his injury. However, it seems very unlikely that he will pass a fitness test. We are likely to see him over the next few weeks. However, he will not be getting physically involved with anyone. Fitness tests will be constant and consistent. They will treat him like he is not going to be involved, unless they decide that he is. However, reserves are already in place. I just mentioned Brock Lesnar as a potential button to push, and there are others, including, for example, Seth Rollins. That said, a US title match is still looking likely to be added to Survivor Series. It looks likely to be Seth Rollins versus Austin Theory, though Bobby Lashley may still get involved. A quick tidbit on what we were looking at for the Wargames matches themselves. For the men's Wargames, the plan was to start with Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. As regards Liv Morgan, I got this question a little earlier. Liv Morgan is expected to miss Survivor Series. There is still an outside chance that she could be involved in Wargames, however that is speculation on my part. At this point in time, Liv Morgan is expected to miss Survivor Series. This does mean that she will probably continue to be the thorn in Ronda Rousey's side going forwards, but this is for Raw and SmackDown leading into the Royal Rumble and not for the Royal Rumble itself. Several matches, as we know, have been cut, but a big opportunity has been given to Shotzi. Triple H is trying to elevate the SmackDown Women's division and create plausible challenges for returning names such as Charlotte Flair and Naomi. He wants people who are able to elevate themselves in matches and also to give people that opportunity to line up in mid-card feuds. At the moment, there is no possibility of any mid-card feud on the SmackDown side for the women. On the Raw side, the Women's Tag Team Championships are serving that purpose, but they are not involved enough in SmackDown to really give any particular boost. As I say, it is a big opportunity for Shotzi, and hopefully one that she is able to take. Spiderboss says, I never got why fans on social media attack you, Tom. Only you have the most accurate wrestling news and fans still talking in bad terms about you. Because they haven't watched the show. I mean, that's the only thing I can really say. Everyone who watches the show sticks around. So I think that's quite telling. There's a reason we've grown so fast recently. Sean says, I watched Saraya interview on Insight. She was asked why she signed with AEW over WWE, and she said she signed with AEW for the creative freedom. No one in AEW has full creative freedom, but they are able to pitch more ideas. Essentially, it's very similar to how Triple H works. Spiderboss says, why have take so much time for Sasha to sign her new deal? No comment. I don't understand what I could possibly answer that with. I don't know what you want from me on that one. Bossman says, how hurt is Owens? It is a MCL strain. The full extent of the damage is not clear because nothing's come off the bone or anything like that. The expectation is that he'll be back within about a month. Wargames would definitely exacerbate the injury. Would definitely exacerbate that injury. So the WWE don't necessarily want him involved. Triple H is bringing in other plans. Kevin Owens, however, seems to want to be involved. Sean Ireland says, do you believe Sasha trade marketing new names is a way to put more pressure on WWE to get a deal done? No, the WWE do not factor into any of those names. It's not WWE related in any way. Jonesy says, Johnny Gargano to turn heel as his recent return has been poor. He seems so unover. WWE wanted him to be Daniel Bryan-like. Instead, he's Zack Ryder level of crowd reaction. Daniel Bryan was not Daniel Bryan within the first couple of weeks on the main roster. You've got to remember, Daniel Bryan got over, not by saying yes, but by saying no. Daniel Bryan wasn't, everyone loves this guy. It took years. Years. So I don't think that's a good stick to beat people with. Raymond says, best return in my opinion, Johnny Gargano, and the worst is Candice. Interesting because they both return in very similar ways. Wrestler fan says, hey Tom, how are you mate? Hope you're doing good today. I'm doing great today, as you said. I didn't say good, you said great. I'm doing great, thank you. Welcome to the show, mate. Jonas says, Sasha comeback would be great if she does a shoot-style gimmick mixing kayfabe and character. She kind of will. There's not much more to say on that one. I really don't know how to describe that. Everyone in WWE right now is trying to mix kayfabe and character. It's been the case since Punk. A lot of people are going for that. Underground says, if Sasha returns, she'll be on the side of Damage Control. The face Bayley would make would be epic, similar to Kevin Owens won at Wargames in NXT. What do you think, Tom? I think it's possible, but I think it's very unlikely. Joey says, I'm glad Triple H nixed that match. I hate those stereotype matches. Me too. Eddie Gomez says, Money in the Bank will return to WrestleMania. I was the first one to report that Money in the Bank was looking to go off its own pay-per-view and would likely return to WrestleMania. That has been discussed a few more times by a few different sources now, so you're certainly hearing it a lot more. It looks like that's going to be the case, yes. Venom says that was the best Survivor Series when NXT was involved, except Johnny should have been on the team. Underground Temple says Sasha did return. It would be great to see her at Wargames on the opposite side of Damage Control. Cross and Ripley, the face Bailey would pull, would be similar to when Owens was on Team Ciampa. Nelson says WWE United States Champion Seth Rollins versus IWGP United States Champion Will Ospreay would be a cool match to see. Yes, it would, and there's a lot of history there. Jonesy is asking if Vincent and Dutch are signed with WWE. Spoiler. Simon says Liv versus Ronda at the Rumble, Tom. Possibly then, possibly before. Who will Liv be feuding with over the next 2 weeks? Sonya Steele or Xia Li? Lacey. She'll be feuding with heels. It is likely she'll be moving on from Sonya Deville pretty quickly. But she will not be wrestling every single week because that's what the WWE is now. Only the champions will be the ones popping up every single week. Joey says, when is Bobby Roode expected to return? He already kind of has. He just hasn't been returning to wrestling. Keen World Peace says, any Montez Ford updates? The last update I had on him was that they were still considering the possibility of a breakup in which Montez Ford would turn heel. And you get, for example, Montez Ford versus AJ, which I'd be very happy about. Wrestler Fan says, will the big shows like Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam be in stadiums going forwards? Yes. That's one of the reasons they're reducing the pay-per-view schedule, so they can get more big shows like that in big events and big places. Steve says, if you were booking a WWE versus AEW Wargames, who would you choose for each team? Gotta be Roman, gotta be Seth. After that, I start to struggle a little bit, I've got to be honest, because there's a lot of really good options. Given that we've got Roman and Seth in there, I'd be putting Gunter in there, Lashley, probably Brock. I'd be happy with that. On the AEW side, I'd be putting Jericho, I'd be putting Moxley, I'd be putting Kenny Omega. After that, I start to struggle a bit more. Pac. I'll put Pac in. And one more. Tony Khan. He could live his dream. Underground Temple says Matt Taven and Michael Bennett signed to AEW, I heard, so Adam Cole reunion soon would be great. A kingdom indeed. Ethan says, any news on if Bray will be on the show tonight? He will be on the show tonight. Connor says Liv and Rhea keep teasing about their former tag team and it gets the fans on Twitter riled up, and that's why they do it. Jonesy says, do you see Roman leaving WrestleMania as champion? Not this year, no. Simon says, if Sasha Banks signs a new contract, Tom, in time, will she be in War Games then? Again, I don't know what you expect me to say here, Simon. I've given you all the news I possibly have on this one. I can't sit here and say, well, if this happens, this happens, this happens, and this happens, well, this will definitely happen, because it would be a complete guess. I don't do that. Underground says WWE versus AEW Wargames match will be Judgment Day versus House of Black. And Venom says, any update on Becky's return? They are still saving her towards Royal Rumble time. She's not going to be in Wargames. She will not be in Wargames. Steve says, I would not complain seeing Brock take Tony Khan to Suplex City. Joey says, I saw a report that people are very concerned about Adam Cole's injury. Have you heard anything on this? I have not. Not heard an actual thing about the Adam Cole injury, so no further information that I've got for that. I agree, boss man. Returning for the Rumble would be a good shout, but I suspect he'd return at the beginning of January, so that you don't get like 15 people returning in the Rumble and sort of getting diminishing returns. Hector says, as a long-time viewer of WWE, the end of traditional 5-on-5 SmackDown vs Raw match of Survivor Series is bittersweet. I recall some very good moments. My favourite was always the return of Taker after Orton won the Survivor Series match, and he's panicking while being held up as Druids approach the ramp. It was a great moment. Ziggler and Sting. Spider-Boss says, do you see Damage Control winning at War Games? Yeah. Yeah, not to spoil my predictions, but yeah. Sean says, I do believe Jake Paul said on Impulsive TV that Logan didn't tear his ACL, just his meniscus and MCL. Oh, cool. Good news. Michael believes the best return was Dakota. I kind of agree on that one. Bailey says, does Charlotte get paid regardless if she is not booked? Yes, she has a guaranteed downside, so a guaranteed amount of money that she receives every year, and it basically comes as a salary. And then she gets more based on the amount of matches that she has. Michael says that there are at least some optimism that talks are going well with Sasha. Yes, there is a lot more optimism over those talks now than there was previously. She's at the table, or at least her representatives are, which is a big plus. The WWE just now have to essentially convince her that they're worth her time. Spiderboss says, I saw your video about Rhea and Mia Yim getting added to Wargames, and why Triple H added Rhea and Mia Yim. Because he feels they will fit in really well in Wargames. Particularly Rhea Ripley, who has history there, after all. Michael says, add Wardlow to Wargames. Sean says, add MJF to Wargames. Guessing people didn't like my Tony Khan bit. Steve says, no, you don't follow too much AEW, but which one are you most looking forward to this weekend? Full Gear or the Media Scrum? The Media Scrum is going to be so tame. So tame. Tony Khan has made it very clear he is not going to be talking about anything he doesn't want to talk about. He will not be drawn out. Marcel says, now you've said that, I want to see the F5 to Tony Khan. Will says, as a fan of wrestling, does it blow your mind to get the news that you get? Sometimes yes, but you got to remember, there's a lot of news I don't share. A lot. Blew my mind when I got to interview Triple H. That was a dream come true moment. It was a great moment. Wrestler Fan says, will Gunther defend his Intercontinental Championship at Survivor Series? Yes, he will. He'll be defending against the winner of the World Cup. So that match will also be added, giving us 6 matches, it looks like. Venom says, what if Roman keeps the belts past Mania? Then Roman Reigns would still be champion past Mania. You're throwing a 6-month away hypothetical. I don't really know what to do with that. Ethan is asking who the 5th member will be on Bianca's team. I do believe Bianca's team has 1 spot left, and that's one surprise. Stuart says if Brock German TK, he'd probably launch him over the cage. Oh, that'd be fun. That'd be fun. Venom says it'd be amazing if Sasha, Becky and Charlotte all returned at the Rumble. Yeah, but it wouldn't just be them, would it? You'd also get, potentially, Kevin Owens, Cody Rhodes, Edge, Brock, etc, etc, etc. Naomi, that you've not mentioned there. Before you know it, you're getting returns for the sake of returns, and you're just kind of like, bored of it. Joey says there's a whole business side of things holding up a new deal for Sasha. No, just a new deal hasn't been signed. Venom says, is everything on the table with Sasha? Sai says, hi Tom and all, hope you're all good. Welcome, Sai. Jonesy says, what is your take on Uncle Howdy? I don't know enough about him. At the moment, he just seems like the Fiend. You know how the Fiend would whisper in Bray's ear and be like, hey, you should destroy everything? Uncle Howdy's not impressing me. He's really not. He's just sort of there. They need to do something here, because I'm getting a bit bored of Bray. And I've been a Bray fan for a long time. Wrestler Fan says, do you think Bray Wyatt can make an appearance at Survivor Series similar to Crown Jewel? Yes, he will be. Camo God says Edge is out until the Rumble. Yeah, at this point in time he's out until around the Rumble. He may return to have a match at the event and build up to it, but his next big moment will be the Royal Rumble. He'll not be involved for the rest of the year, it looks like. He only has so many dates on his contract. Jonesy says, last WWE pay-per-view of the year, makes sense to have a big comeback. I still reckon Sasha will appear in Boston is a great place. Boston is a great place for her. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. I really strongly advise everyone watching, don't get your hopes up, because you're just going to disappoint yourselves. Of course, I also said that about Bray Wyatt at Extreme Rules, and then in the last match I kind of changed my tune before he came out. A man can dream. Ethan says, Tom, quick question. Will LA Knight versus Bray be added to Survivor Series, or is it too early for Bray's first match? I think it's too early for Bray's first match. If it does happen, I'm not sure it'll be Survivor Series. I think this is a long-term little storyline that involves LA Knight getting beaten up during SmackDown shows. Eric says, will Liv take the last Wargame spot? Great question, Eric. Jonesy says, really hope Bray does something big at this PLE rather than just beating LA Knight like Mick Foley destroyed Dwayne Gill. Hey, that Dwayne Gill thing was an important part of the overall Survivor Series story of Vince McMahon making it real easy for Mankind to get to the final, but as it turns out, he wasn't the pick anyway. Simon, you've just said Sasha is the biggest name in wrestling in 2022, and now you're saying she'll be overshadowed at the Royal Rumble. Pick a side, mate. Joey says, when do you think these characters from the Funhouse will start appearing on TV? Long time. Long time. Venom says, if not Survivor Series, I don't reckon Sasha returns until the Rumble. Okay. Jonesy says, look, it returns logically. Sasha, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble is Lynch and Road, SummerSlam is the Summer of Punk. I'm calling all this now. You go right ahead and call it, and I'll remember, and when it doesn't happen, I'll just let you know. Stuart says, Tom, you have any thoughts about the new stipulation match getting introduced at Deadline? Seems a little convoluted to me. What's Deadline? Is that an NXT thing? Steve says, now we have had a decade since the Shield debut. What was your favourite of that group? Wyatt family. Absolutely Wyatt family. No question for me. No question. Spider-Boss excited to see Roman spearing Tony Khan in Wargames. Sean says, thoughts of HBK's announcement of an Iron Survivor match at NXT Deadline. It is NXT Deadline. Cool. It's convoluted. It's messy. There's a lot of different rules. And honestly, I'm just not that convinced by the fact that we need it. I don't think we need it. There's too much gimmick going on lately. I feel like I'm booking a GM mode and I'm just constantly having, oh, let's do 5 TLC matches. I feel like it's just, there's a lot going on right now. We just had Extreme Rules, now we're going to War Games. They need to separate those pay-per-views next year. Bailey says, somehow today's spoiler warning has become Sasha warning. Too many questions to which there are no answers. It's the same question. That's the thing. And like, you guys are all very familiar with this. It happens every show now. We get all of the Sasha questions, but they're all the same question. When's Sasha coming back? That's the question. All of you are asking the exact same question. You're just trying to trick me into saying something, but I don't have anything to say on it. You can say, oh, if this happens, does she come back at War Games? I don't know. It's that simple. I don't know. I've told you everything that I know. And I will tell you nothing else because I can't tell you things that I don't know. Thank you, boss man. I appreciate that heads up. Spider-Boss says, Mandy did a nice cosplay of Nikki Bella on NXT this week. I did see Nikki Bella respond to it. Simon says, Roman versus who at the Rumble? Sheamus, probably. Joey says, I think LA Knight could be Rambling Rabbit since he's a big talker. It would be rambling. It would be terrible for his character to put him behind a mask, though. Jonesy says, can WWE keep all this intrigue about Wyatt 6 if they don't escalate the storyline by WrestleMania? No, probably not. Honestly, the intrigue about the Wyatt 6 has already started to die down for me. Ethan says, I think everyone is obsessed with Sasha. Guys, the amount of DMs I got over the last few days. They are. Ed says, 5-person match, 1 for men, 1 for women, 25-minute match, 5 minutes between people. The most falls wins. If you get pinned, you go to the penalty box. Doesn't that give a massive advantage to whoever's in first? Like a massive advantage. Like if there's 5 minutes between people, you're not going to get many falls if you're the last one, will you? Simon says, you have Orton, Cody, Brock, Edge returning at the Rumble. Jonesy says, I'd love to see a stable crash the Wargames match like Kane did at Bad Blood. Make an impact. So essentially what you're looking for is a nexus. Eric says, who do you think takes the belt off Ronda? Charlotte, Sasha, maybe Bianca to unify the titles. I don't see a unification. Absolutely no way. I think Becky's certainly not a potential. Outside of that, Shayna. She wants to work with Shayna a lot. KJ says, LA Knight, Bray Wyatt feud was teased last week on SmackDown. I think it's a perfect feud to establish LA as a heel, since Bray is so over, will possibly get his opponent booed. I think that's a good shout. He certainly is it is a good way to make him that heel, but nobody seems to survive a feud with Bray Wyatt. It's damaging to their character. Very damaging to their character. So we'll see how that plays out. Wrestler fan says, if Roman doesn't face Bray at Mania, who could you see Bray facing at Mania? Again, massive hypotheticals there, mate. Of the possibilities of people he could work with, Cross? Maybe? I don't know. Not many people actually work with Bray Wyatt. It doesn't work. Like, I'm teased by LA Knight Bray Wyatt, but I know it's going to do damage to LA Knight because LA Knight does not belong in the Bray Wyatt cinematic universe. He just doesn't. He absolutely does not. It's like, let's say Captain America was a rom-com and there was no action at all. It's wrong. And unfortunately, the Bray Wyatt cinematic universe is very, very particular. Imagine Nightmare on Elm Street, but instead of Freddy Krueger, I hope I've got that right, instead of Freddy Krueger, right? Instead of him, it's Draco Malfoy. Doesn't quite work, does it? That's where I am with that one. Ooh. Carly says maybe next spoiler you should have a blue wig on to shut everyone up. I would need the money to buy a wig, unfortunately. I don't know if you guys are fully aware of this, if you're not UK aware, as it were. But the UK is going through a thing right now, and it's not a good thing. The UK economy has been destroyed by the government and by Brexit and by the pandemic and so on and so forth. And everything's getting real expensive, and Tom Colohue is struggling to pay his bills. Thankfully, and I really do mean thankfully, I have YouTube. I have Twitch. And I have so many generous people. You guys are keeping the lights on right now. I'm not taking the piss here. You guys are keeping the lights on. So, thank you. Gotcha, Ed. It does make sense. The fifth entrant gets to be fresh and take on people who are already hurt. Pardon me. Hopefully it's Carnage. Kieran said that I think that's the whole point of the match. Guy comes in last, only has 5 minutes, but could also get easy pinfalls because of us are hurt or tired. Simon says, when are we going to get Roman versus Seth again? As soon as it is booked. Jonesy says, Nexus 2022 would be grand, booked properly. Booked properly is always a good point and a good question, but it's not always a guarantee. Steve says, what's your favourite Sasha Banks match? Sasha versus Becky at Hell in a Cell. I've never seen them take over Brooklyn one. Ethan says, I mean, she's a good wrestler, but she can do what she wants. Everyone needs to appreciate that. Thomas says, are you doing a watch-along for Full Gear? I've never done an AEW watch-along. I don't expect to start now. I just don't have the time. Venom says, when do you think Bron Breakker drops the NXT title, and who to? It depends when he's eventually called up. Eric says, Randy did well in his feud. Did he? Did he? He set a guy on fire, then beat him with an RKO, and then completely forgot about it and just moved on. It was just to kill time, really. PS says, is there discussion about Ronda and Shayna going for the tag titles once Ronda lost the SmackDown title? Yes, there has been discussion about that. I can't guarantee anything at this point because there's no real guarantee of anything to actually say on it. But there's been discussion about it. I mentioned after WrestleMania there was a push for them to be a tag team going after tag team championships. And that is very much still a strong push. Bossman says, yes, she's coming back. Absolutely, 100%. No doubt about it. It's a lock. Now, I imagine someone's going to clip that out and get me in trouble. Spider-Boss says, why has Roxanne Perez not been on NXT lately? Because she doesn't have that active a storyline at this point in time. Sean says, I know you don't like the guy, Tom, but Bully Ray said he likes Bayley on here and that WWE needs to pull a plug on Damage Control. They don't. They absolutely do not. Bully Ray is, of course, of the mindset that your big stars have to win every match. They don't. They don't in any way. That's not the Triple H way. Spider-Boss says, I don't know which one pisses me off the most. Bayley Crown Jewel or Alba Fire this week on NXT. Okay. Hector says, I know it may be a tad too predictable, but you could have Bray and Wyatt 6 versus Schism at some point. That's one person who would be a good match for Bray's universe, if you will. That's a fair point. There are some options, but there aren't many good ones, unfortunately. Spider-Boss says, Alba Fire lost twice in a row against Mandy. Was bad. Yeah, but it's also very good for Mandy in the championship. Again, in order for the champion to win, someone else does have to lose. So I know people get annoyed at other people and their favourites losing. Someone's got to lose the match. As I continue to catch up on the YouTube side, I've got a bit more news that I'll go through. But please remember, hit the thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. As I said over the last week, we have slowed down a little bit, but every little does help. So if you haven't done so yet, thumbs up and subscribe, please. So, news. What else have we got? As regards Raw and SmackDown, between the Royal Rumble and Survivor Series, we have a 2-month gap. Triple H is currently trying to line up, in some sort of kayfabe manner, a championship match, that being US tag, women's tag, intercontinental, etc., for every single Raw or SmackDown. This does mean there is a strong possibility Roman Reigns will be defending his championship on free TV. Pretty good place to be. Essentially, the Triple H playbook involves a lot of surprise returns and a whole lot of people defending championships. Seth Rollins will be heavily involved in this. Gunther a bit less so, More likely that we will see the tag championships, with the women's tag championships, popping up more often on SmackDown. There is one more piece of news before I get to some personal channel news, and that is as regards CM Punk. I've seen people asking questions about CM Punk to WWE. There has been no contact at this point in time between CM Punk and the WWE. There has been no question of a return and no discussion about any sort of contract specifics. The main reason for that is because at this point in time, CM Punk is still under contract with AEW. He is still waiting for a formal offer of the buyout that he would consider acceptable. Unfortunately, it is not something that he and Tony Khan have been able to agree on so far. Tony Khan is currently trying to get out of paying due to the breach of contract that he perceives in essentially CM Punk starting the fight that he did backstage, or at least it is reported to do. Want to say a couple of quick thank yous there because a couple of messages and notifications have just come in. We have a renewal of a subscription from Horsey. Thank you very much, sir. Welcome to the show. And Callie has donated via the super chat option. Thank you kindly, Callie. I very much appreciate it. My partner has just arrived and run past the door so that you guys don't hear her. So I'm saying it nice and loud that you're not going to hear her because, as I've said 1,000 times, the microphone is good enough that you're not going to pick that up. Just to make that clear. That's not for you guys, but you get what I'm going for. A little bit of channel news before we get to a few more questions from yourselves. We have a few things that I do want to discuss. Now, firstly, you may remember that there is a Sports Accelerator network on Twitch that I have been a part of in the past. That was a quite profitable time for me, I will definitely say that, though not necessarily the 3-month growth that was promised to me on the Twitch side. That has now come to an end. Twitch have closed it and cancelled it. It is now over. Which is one of many reasons, as you guys may have heard me say recently, I have question marks about Twitch. Twitch has not been as successful overall, and I don't feel I'm getting the support that I need in order to continue to grow on Twitch. Since switching to a focus on YouTube, it's been a lot more successful and a lot faster growth. I'm not planning to stop on Twitch, just to be clear there. I'm not planning to stop, but my focus going forwards will primarily be on Twitch. Coming up on the channel, I'm currently putting together a video on Vince McMahon and the ignominy by which he was forced to leave the company. You may be aware that I have some further information on this that may not be anywhere else. So to be clear, many things that I'll be discussing do include blatant racism, treating people like meat, live backstage sex shows, abuse, modern slavery, pimping, bullying, sexual favours, harassment, embezzlement, misuse of company funds, paying off affairs, having multiple affairs, etc. All of that and more, scandal after scandal, to be covered in the upcoming Vince McMahon video. So please do keep an eye out for that. I'll let you know as it is being edited. Huge thank you, by the way, also for the £5 donation there as well. Thank you kindly. There is a watch along tonight. We will be watching SmackDown together. Says, good evening, Tom. My apologies for lateness. I was live myself. Hope you're good. Very good. Thank you. Never need to apologise for dropping in late. I'm always appreciative that you drop in. Spiderboss says, what do you think about this new version of Austin Theory? I think it's very normal in that in wrestling, people tend to get a new vicious side when their current character isn't working. For example, the new vicious version of the Viking Raiders. It's not particularly impressive to me. Sean says, Alba losing still sets the Roxanne to win the title from Mandy. It does indeed. Hector says, Tom, I've always wondered this, but to your knowledge, why did they modify the Elimination Chamber? Possibly going from the TV-14 era to the PG, or was it something different? Too many injuries. Too many people were picking up injuries and being out of action, so they made some changes to safeguard it. Barry says, I managed to drag my arm away from the keyboard, stopping me getting too political. You're going to go in on the Tories. Well done, mate, for controlling it. Well done. It's not easy at times. It's not easy. Jonesy says, I can't wait until Uncle Howdy versus Bray Wyatt. That's not going to happen. Angel Lucia says, Tom, if Orton would return, would you like to see him face Stone Cold? That's a huge match. I would like to see that. I think that's a really good option. Like, there's a lot of pretty good options when it comes to Randy Orton, but I do feel that's certainly a really good option there. Kieran says, AEW pay-per-views are too long for a watch-along. They normally go to 5 a.m. UK time. I just can't do that. Steve would like to see Carmelo Hayes as the next NXT champion. Dominic welcome, says, hi Tom. Who is Roman going to feud with after Survivor Series, and is The Rock coming back? After Survivor Series, he is feuding with Sheamus. At this point in time, The Rock is not booked for a match at WrestleMania. I think I say that every show, and I'll reiterate once again. The Rock is not booked for a match at WrestleMania at this point in time. Jonesy says, any thoughts on Hurt Business coming back? I just like that as a faction. It worked perfectly. MVP right now, kind of not doing much. Ethan says, what's happening with the women's tag titles? They are being defended when they are called on. Asuka says, these Bray Alexa teasers mean anything? They were not on this week's Raw. It means Bray's coming for Alexa, but more to hurt her than to heal her. Pierre says, you mentioned Liv missing Survivor Series. Could they put it with Shotzi to match Shayna? Maybe, but not a Survivor Series, because that means that Shotzi has just lost her championship match. Simon says, do you see CM Punk chance? Nope. Thomas says, how would you book an AEW versus WWE Wargames match? I have actually already covered that. Steve asked that question, and that's a little further up in the chat. But it does involve Roman, Seth, Bobby, Brock, and Gunter versus Jon Moxley, Chris Jericho, Pac, Tony Khan, and who else did I say? Said someone else. I can't remember at this point. Kenny Omega. Thank you, Ed. Ed clarifies, focus will be on YouTube, not focusing on Twitch. Yes, Twitch will not get my unending attention as it has done in the past. I just want to clarify that I'm simply not getting the support that I'm looking for from Twitch, whereas YouTube is giving me pretty much everything I want and more in the growth that we've had. Yes, Callie, what a naughty boy he was. Venom says, when will there be a Raw watch along and when will you go full time? You've answered your own question there. I cannot justify staying up until 4 or 5 a.m. to watch a Monday Night Raw and then waking up at 7 to start my day job. I cannot justify that. It will not happen. It simply will not happen. Peter Englefield, welcome. Says, sorry I'm late. Don't have a note. Gutted. What have I missed? Lots of talk about the changes that have been made to Survivor Series, what the plans were for Vince as they were building up to it, and what Triple H has already changed as well. Ed says, hashtag bad Vince. I remember those times. I need to bring that back. Horsey says, I did Twitch as I was told the growth is huge, bigger than YouTube. That isn't actually true, to be honest, after doing it. And that's absolutely true. I think people go on Twitch, and in many ways I did, because you can monetize faster. But you don't grow anywhere near as fast on Twitch. You just don't. Now that shorts are a thing on YouTube and everyone has them, particularly with shorts being monetized in February, that's a huge potential. Huge potential. So that's one of many reasons why I'm going to go for it. Spider-Boss says, does the WWE investigation about Vince still in development? Nope, the investigation has been closed. It cost many, many million. Sean says, Logan Paul called out John Cena on his podcast. Logan Paul will call out anyone who's a big name to compete with. Spider-Boss says, I hope the women's Wargames match has surprises. Well, we don't know what the match is going to be yet. There's one person left to call, and there's all those spots. So when you say surprises, have you been conditioned to expect like 15 extra people to turn up? Because eventually there's no more people left. Bossman says, I'll join you on YouTube. Twitch has plateaued for me. I kind of agree with that. Like, you know what I'm talking about, Bossman. You exactly know what I'm talking about. YouTube grows for you. The algorithm is so strong. Whereas Twitch, if people aren't looking for what you're doing, they'll never find you. Venom says, do you see any returns tonight? I'll be watching, so I will see any returns tonight. Yes. KJ says, if Austin, Cena, Punk and Brock all made Mania next year, who would you have them face if you could book it? I wouldn't have Austin, I wouldn't have Cena, I wouldn't have Punk, and I'd have Brock face Gunter. What I would like to do is develop the people that we have now. And I'm not into all these legends. Stuart says, are those big spots? Are those spots big ones? I don't know how to answer that, Stuart. I haven't watched the match yet. Venom said, if Sasha or Becky don't return at the Rumble, I'm going to explode. Well, maybe don't pin all of your hopes on something that you have no control over. Might not work out for you. Spider-Boss says, did Lashley turn heel or is he still babyface? At the moment, he is leaning towards heel, but he has not been formally committed to that role just yet. Couple of last things to cover, and they are channel news. At the rate of growth that we are currently seeing, I do not expect that we will reach 2,000 by the end of the year. However, I was looking through my notes from the beginning of the year. My actual target for the end of the year was only 1.5. So we're actually 300 and literally 20% ahead of where I was hoping to be anyway. So I can't be too disappointed that we're not going to hit the 2K. What I am going to do is put a lot of focus into the upcoming Royal Rumble and WrestleMania because, as you know, interest in wrestling ebbs and flows. Rumble to WrestleMania is when it's busiest. That is when, as you know, I'll be making a lot of content, and that is when I grew the fastest at the beginning of this year. So while I may not get to 2K by the end of this year, I'm excited for the beginning of next. And one last thing, as we look at the fact that Twitter is, let's just say, a dumpster fire at the moment, I have considered reigniting the Facebook page. Now, you may note that I'm reticent about that, and I stand by that. I stand by being confused and a little bit scared, and I'm okay with it, because Facebook, it's not exactly much better, is it? But it does drive a lot more traffic, so I'm just going to post a link if anyone is interested in checking that out. It has not had a lot of love. Not a lot of love, but that's mostly on me. It's entirely on me, let's be fair. Sean says, I see one of the rules for Wargames was gone on the graphic. The rule that if you climb out of the cage, you forfeit for your team. Yeah, they're going to be everywhere now. Spider-Boss says, the new version of Austin Theory is interesting, more serious and no selfies. Yeah, much like the new Vicious Viking Raiders, or when Edge went serious, or when AJ went serious, or when everybody goes serious. Nikki Cross just did it. Same thing for everyone. And Spider-Boss says, Elon Musk has been what Vince Russo was for WCW. The end of it? Yes. Wiggly, I cannot predict whether or not people are going to win championships at some point in the future. The future is many, many millions of years. Michael says, deleted my Facebook about 6 years ago and it was a great decision. I was so close. So close. So close. But I should be exploring any avenue that helps me grow, let's be fair. Thomas says, personally, I would have on WWE side Roman, the Usos, Seth and Cody versus AEW's team of Elite, Jericho and Moxley. Usos, Young Bucks, I can see that working. Jordan Darlow says, totally agree, Tom. Build the future stars. Gunter is a future world champion. I agree. Welcome, Jordan. Alyssa, welcome as well. Again, you're asking about Cody Rhodes. You've asked this several times. I've answered this several times. Peter says, personally, I found Raw much better than SmackDown. Theory Return was great. I'm still a fan of SmackDown personally. Just a bit more for me. Venom says, do you think Sasha returns at Rumble? Once again, you're all asking me the exact same question. When will Sasha return? And I've answered in every possible phrasing, I don't know. Okay? Horsey says, Cody Rhodes' return is so exciting. As I'm losing interest in the Bray story, it's too slow, to be honest. It's rinse and repeat at the minute for me, from Fiend, too slow. Yeah, it's taken a bit too long for me, though. The LA Knight tease, that's working for me. So I'm excited to see where they go with that. Callie says, you'll do well with Facebook. I'll share your page. Thank you, Callie. Appreciate that. Marcel says, bye, Tom. Have to go. I'll be there Monday. Thank you for joining us, Marcel. I'll see you later. KJ says, how is Liv not doing anything? Oh, talking to Simon. Please remember to at the beginning. Just means that I know it's aimed at someone else. Wiggly says, I thought you had a sports almanac for the next 100 years. That's a reference everyone's going to get. Spider-Boss says, is Becky still on Young Rock? I don't know. I don't watch that show. I don't believe we get it here. Spider-Boss says, do you think Argentina has a chance of winning the World Cup? Yes, because they're competing in it. So they've got a shot. Also says, is LA Knight put in as they kind of know it's slow or always planned? To my knowledge, it wasn't planned beforehand, so it's interesting to see. But it was the main reason they really rushed through the change back to LA Knight and the turn with it. We are 5 minutes past the hour. We've been streaming for just over an hour. We will be streaming once again for the watch party for SmackDown later tonight, but at this point in time, I will be wrapping up. So, hopefully, see you all later. In the meantime, I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic. And I'll see you all very, very soon.